Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Highlanders versus the Chiefs. This one was supposed to be kind of a close one, but it was anything but in the end. 22-45 and it was 0-42 at half-time up in Fiji. Not the best of situations for Naholo on his sort of return home, was it, Steve?
I mean, you've got to look at the positives here, that it was 22-3 to the Highlanders in the second half. So take the good things. But hey, before we talk about the game, what about we say how great it is for a game to be in Fiji and Suva? Great crowd, packed house. I was surprised. I know it's a Highlanders home game, but I'm surprised that they are behind the Highlanders, because I would have taken Fiji as to be more of a Chiefs land sort of place. I mean, with the island influence probably that the Chiefs have a lot more, than the Highlanders, although, like you're just saying, the home of Mr. Naholo. So, good to be there. I was surprised about the weather, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit more as we go through.
Yeah, and I mean, Timnana Williams, he's like Samoa, isn't he? So perhaps the Chiefs are a bit more of a Samoan rather than Fiji. You got to get your details, okay? That they're not all the same. It's not just one bunch of islands, you know.
I didn't say that.
So yeah, let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the crowd first. Big crowd, noisy, got involved. That was really good.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably why we should have more games over there as well, because it's great atmosphere, generally good weather. I mean, it wasn't raining, and it wasn't frosty and foggy, so you probably got a lot over most New Zealand places at this time of year as well. So a great place. You can expect that from there. It's a huge thing. When they're talking to the promoter guy, don't know who he was, but at halftime, talking about how big of a event it is for Fiji. So it's great for them. And hopefully we see more of it in future as well.
Absolutely. I think they've been pretty much taking a game there every year now for 3 years. The Chiefs did it for 2 years. The Highlanders done it this year. We had last year the Blues also took a game to Samoa. Clearly, everything is being built up for an island team, particularly based out of Fiji, to join the Super Rugby in the next expansion. Or the next change, anyway. So that's it's all going off and going well. One thing I enjoyed. So, as you probably know, and so I've been following the Major League Rugby, and I'll be doing post-match reaction to the 2 semi-finals tomorrow. But one of the big discussions in Major League Rugby has been respect the kicker, and do you make any noise when the kicker's kicking? Now, something that we don't know that's in the Southern Hemisphere doesn't really happen. It's really a British and Irish thing, to be honest. I mean, the French don't either. But it was. I have never heard a crowd so far who start cheering for Mackenzie's smile. That was something brilliant. It was noisy, and then suddenly it got really noisy when he smiled before he kicked, which I really enjoyed.
Hey, what was amazing about it too is how he didn't crack it. He did the typical smile thing, but then he snapped back to being calm to take his kick. See, that probably, if it was him, that would take you by surprise. It'd probably make you chuckle yourself. So, he completely zones out and just has his little pre-kick ritual, which I thought was quite spectacular. He managed to compose himself.
Yeah, no, I would have. The first time it happened, I laughed, yeah. and I was like, oh. Then then I was looking for it after that. But yes, Jack, there's no need to be talking about how rubbish the Blues are. So let's not let's just in a live chat there. Let's enjoy the Highlanders and the Chiefs, not go there. So, I got some various text messages from friends at halftime going, "What the beep is happening here?" So, what did happen in those first 2 minutes? Do you want to have a crack at it?
In the first 2 minutes or the first 40 minutes?
Well, the first 2 minutes was pretty much what happened for the rest of the 40 minutes.
Well, that's about true. Hey, I'd probably... A couple of things. I think over the whole match, the weather was a big factor, something I've mentioned already. I said at half-time quite a few times that, 42 points is a massive margin to bring back, but I didn't think that the game was going to continue that way at all. maybe I was expecting a bit too much, hoping the Highlanders would come back into it more than I thought. But I did expect that the game would turn on its head a little bit as it did due to that. I can't put it down to anything else. I mean, having that at your back, being able to clear out of your own line a good 60, 70 metres, and then the other side only be able to do 15 or 20, has to be huge. To have that territorial gain on your side every time is massive. And just the havoc that it wreaked with the passes, the kicks. Sopawanga is a guy like Bowden Barrett, the little kicks, little chips, the little flicks and things like that. They don't work in games like this. You kind of got to tone it down a little bit. But there was two contrasting sides that second half, and nothing went the way of the Highlanders and the Chiefs. They rode their luck, and they're clinical, and you got to give them credit for that. They played everything they had, and they finished everything they got a chance for as well. So that really summed up that first half. Just two polar opposite sides.
Yeah, in that first half, things went the Chiefs' way, but they played for them to go their way as well. You make your own luck quite often in this game, and that's what they did do. For me, there was a big difference in I think the Highlanders got rattled by those two early scores and never recovered, and they were playing frantic rugby for the rest of the game. Whereas the Chiefs, on the other hand, in that first half, were playing fast rugby. Not frantic, but fast. They didn't have time on the ball to do things and get their passes away at speed, whereas the Highlanders, when they were trying to do the same thing, looked rushed and looked to be sort of full of adrenaline and trying too hard to try and come back. Whereas and that sort of thing. And those two early scores, the first one by Solomon, where we saw Anton Leonard-Brown doing what we saw him do for the All Blacks when he first arrived on the scene, getting his hands free, releasing players, those sort of magician hands that people referred to. I thought he had a bit of a better game. And then the second one was Pulu, a speedster, forcing his way over as well.
Yeah, I think a big part of that little period as well was penalties. After penalty, after penalty, after penalty. Most of the penalties, I had no idea what they were for, because there was another penalty that was getting played advantage for before the other penalty had even been explained what it was for. It was just compounding on top of each other, and that doesn't allow a team to ever get on the forward momentum at all, and the Chiefs are all over it. Scrambling defence wasn't really working. The game was just too fast for the Highlanders. I don't think they probably expected it to be like it was. You talked about it, either quick hands, short passing, taking the defender, opening up the space out wide, and like we said, quality finishing, and just taking the chances when they're there as well. And yeah, you've talked about Anton Leonard-Brown. I was going to save him till the end, but I thought really solid, much like we knew he was when he became an All Black, much like we expected from him. Just solid, yeah. Probably nothing. He wasn't not flashy. He's not spectacular, but he just creates space and he just opens up the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got here the Landers composure we were talking about, and the Chiefs very clearly wanted to take on the Highlanders up front early on. All their lineouts, as soon as even perhaps gone about halfway, they were mauling them straight away. They got the upper hand in the scrum in that first half as well, and they really wanted to lay down a marker, even though their backs were getting some good go forwards. The forwards are like, no, we're going to lay the platform for this, and you can have the ball afterwards. And which I thought was interesting, and they used that to their advantage in the third try by doing faking the line-out maul and then letting the players punch off it and get that try, which was some nice clever rugby from the Chiefs as well.
Yeah, I've got the second and third try. I've pretty much got the same thing for the third try as a second, because, like you said, it was a forwards dominating every area. Yes, Pulu scored it as a back, but he could have put a number 6 on his back for that little clip, and it wouldn't have looked out of place the way he charged through there. They dominated everywhere. The set piece. I was thinking about this while I was watching this first half, and I was thinking, I'm going to go into this as really bagging the Highlanders because of how they played. And I was going to say to you, you need to take the side of the Chiefs on this one and say the good about them, because the Highlanders were just woeful. And everything I've put down here is just about how bad they were. Chiefs were good, don't get me wrong about all this, but the Highlanders were just extremely poor, and like was mentioned in the conversation on Twitter, Sunwolves would have been up by 20-25 at halftime against the way the Highlanders were playing as well. And when you don't have any go forward in your forward pack, your defence is all over the place, there's no continuity. A good team and a woeful team.
We've got to talk about that defence as well. By the end of the game, only 64% tackling. That in that first half, and most of that was in the first half. That was really poor, and not the kind of game we expect from Highlanders, who pride themselves on the defence.
Yeah, they're one of the best defensive teams in the competition. They're making 140 or 160 tackles per game, and missing very few. So it's not what you expect from them. But they were just at sea. But you could take the positives again and say it was just for the first half.
True. And then the fourth try was after a scrum that went messy. So even when things got messy, the Chiefs managed to pick up the scraps and go over. We then saw Whitelock get yellow carded because they were just giving away too many penalties, especially in the last 5 metres. I don't think there's any argument about the yellow card.
Well, no, not about that. It was it's silly. That's what I've put down, a silly thing to do. He could make an argument he was going to make a tackle, but just probably trying to cover his own actions there. But I have noted down here that just after that third try, the possession was 84-16% to the Chiefs. Clear domination at that point. And, that's not just the Chiefs holding on to the ball very well. It's the Highlanders only going about 1 or 2 phases and doing something stupid and losing it. But the yellow card, the amount of penalties they conceded in the earlier stages of the game, you could probably be surprised they didn't get one sooner. But about that yellow card, it's just consistency, which later on didn't come into play, which is a bit of a shame. Probably the only mark that I'll put on the referee over the game, though. But again, it's the same sort of thing for the Chiefs, isn't it? They were all over it, and every single risk they took, every 50-50 that went their way, the bounce of the ball, the carry of the wind, just went on their side.
Yeah, and they scored 2 tries whilst Whitelock was off the pitch. First one, the scrum collapsed, so they had advantage, but they still sneaked over in the corner. Nice finish. And then also the turnover. Well, the ball got turned over a couple of times. It's quite a long stretch of play at the end of the half. But Solomon, who had a wonderful game from fullback. I know we talked on Thursday. Maybe I wasn't with you. On Thursday, and you were saying how you prefer him on the wing rather than at fullback. But he had a wonderful game from fullback today.
Well, he had the chance, didn't he? He was in the line a lot. And that's the big thing. He was pretty much covering anywhere he wanted to go, which gives him sort of an Israel Folau sort of effect from fullback as opposed to the wing. He can come in, pick the areas he wants to attack. Because he's got that dangerous speed and acceleration, he can find the hole before he wants to be there rather than just getting the ball on a specific side. So worked out for him. First half definitely didn't get tested too much defensively or anything like that with the way the game played. So, kind of took that 50-50 part of his game out of play. Overall, destructive. He's immense, and the season's just carried on. And, the Highlanders, do they regret not just killing that half? I can see why they kept trying to play. And it could have made a difference should have they scored, and they had 7 up already going in the second half. But, it's one of those things, isn't it? You live by the sword, you die by the sword, and they certainly took one to the stomach there. Yeah, no,
that's as you say, I think the coach is going, kick the ball off and let us talk to you because we really want to talk to you guys because we need to talk to you. And in that, then at that point, the commentators rolled out the stat that the highest winning margin by the Chiefs over the Highlanders prior to this game was 31 points. And it still ends up being that one back in 2001. We definitely thought that was under threat at that point.
Yeah, and even the old TAB guys were throwing out that the Chiefs have never kept a team to nil. That didn't turn out either. So there we go. There was 2 stats that didn't come to fruition. But, I couldn't see that game going 80 minutes like that. Just couldn't see it happening. The way that was just so much dominance, I would have been just ridiculous.
Yep, no,
thankfully.
True. I can imagine that you wouldn't be answering my calls if you'd been if it happened to that. We might have got you on the show. So that first half finished territory 73% to the Chiefs. Second half territory 36% to the Chiefs. It shows you there that the Highlanders had the better of that second half. big time. But initially, the Chiefs kept ball in hand, played the same way they had been earlier, without any kicking, and got up the pitch, and you thought, okay, perhaps the Chiefs can show the Highlanders how you play with into the wind in the second half during the opening couple of minutes.
Well, I guess confidence plays a big part in that, isn't it? They go in there knowing they've got a massive lead. They can probably take a few more risks that they already have done, and afford to probably not play as safe, looking for territory as much as they should have, possibly in that sort of situation, if their lead was only 5 or 6 points given another day. So yeah, they had that on their side, and they could definitely experiment a bit, but it quickly changed though.
It did. Cody says that Highlanders aren't used to such warm conditions. I don't think it was that much, but there is a question mark here. I mean, one of the things we talked about is that around the Highlanders play indoors a lot. Mm-hmm. So and we saw in the first half they did not cope with the wind very well. Not just by playing into it, but their passing was all over the shop. They were trying some passes, and the ball's getting blown around a bit. It was quite often hitting the back shoulder rather than in front of the player, which slowed everything down. And they really didn't show they play indoors perhaps a little bit too much and need to train outdoors a bit more.
Possibly. There was a lot of instances where that did happen. I mean, all the way through the game, even at the end where they should have scored that try of Buckman, he took the ball high, and behind him he had to completely stop his momentum. That wasn't the last, that wasn't the first. That happened all through the whole game. Sopwinger's kicking was all up the wop.
He had an absolute shocker in the first half. Restarts going out in the full, knocking the ball on, Ben Smith then picking up in offside positions. He was all over the shop in that first half.
Yeah, nothing went their way. Nothing went their way at all. I mean, you can put a partial say on that. The weather conditions did affect that, but they looked completely unprepared for that. And maybe it is due to the roof. I don't know. Fiji built a roof.
Money issues already. You're going to say go build a roof? Absolutely. No, dearie me. One player for the Highlanders who had a pretty decent first half and then continued in the second was Thompson, though. I think he had a good game all round, and he was the catalyst for the second try. The first try was just retain possession, quick ball, eventually you bash over. They got a couple of advantages and stuff.
You want to talk about Thompson? I'd like to talk about someone in the first half who was just freakishly good. Charlie Ngatai. Simply brilliant in that first half. No real effect on the second half, and eventually went off of what looked like a bit of a knock somewhere, as expected for him. But he was just phenomenal. His kicking, he takes so much pressure off McKenzie, who I didn't think was, given that much space to do much, so he was pretty ineffectual all around. But Ngatai was on top of the game, made massive breaks everywhere. Again, his kicking, some just ridiculous kicks from his own 22, bouncing that far out from the sideline and going to touch, just stupidly good. So he was my standout, and I don't know if we're going to talk about him anymore, but Liam Messam. I'm not saying anymore, but Liam
Messam had a wonderful first half. Playing as a link player in particular, he also managed to hit the ball from deep a couple of times. But yes, his passing was sublime, sort of slipping into that back line nicely as someone who could just distract defenders as soon as he got it, because he's going to take a guy or two to take him down, so you have to pay attention to him, but then releasing other players. He had a wonderful game.
Rolling back the clock.
Sorry?
Rolling back the clock.
Oh, absolutely,
it was like 8 years ago.
And I was thinking,
amazing.
He's outplayed Luke Whitelock here. Perhaps he should be the backup for Reid.
He's outplayed. I don't think it was even close.
So, but unfortunately, he's heading overseas at the end of the season, so he couldn't be. He can't go to every World Cup. So the Highlanders had a better second half. Again, their passing wasn't. They didn't execute as well as Chiefs did. They passed too much behind players, etc. That kind of stuff. Getting warned that the next game is about to kick off. So, any final kind of points or players you want to call out?
I'll make a second point on the referee being a bit inconsistent with the deliberate knock-on thing that Whitelock got the yellow card for about just over the 60-minute mark. Pretty overlap for the Highlanders, and they're not giving a deliberate knock-on back the other way. So that was a little bit frustrating, for the Highlanders, especially given that. But what else do I put on here? Disallowed try.
Oh, yes.
What were your thoughts on that? Something we should probably cover.
Yeah, I thought a little bit harsh, and I thought at that point, if they'd got those two, if they'd been scoring at points a minute in the second half, which they would have been at that point, it could have made it very tasty. Yeah, to me, it looked like stripped by Charlie Nartai, and therefore, yeah, not a knock on. But quite often, yeah, but it does. To be honest, it does get given as knock on quite frequently, even when it does get knocked out by the opposition. So I can understand why it was, but it would have made for a much better game if it hadn't been given. Yeah,
well, that would have been 2 tries, 48th minute. They could have been, back on 12, 14 points as it was at that point. The only other thing I'll really say, goal kicking. In those conditions, Mackenzie, I'm pretty critical of him normally, but his goal kicking was flawless. It was outstanding. So, big ups for him on that. And, overall, I've pretty much picked out my players I thought were amazing. Thompson for the Highlanders, agree with you on that. Messam and Nartai, freakish in the first half. And good to see the Highlanders coming back. Almost made a bit of a match of it, but it just was not to be. But an entertaining game, I think. And the Chiefs and the Highlanders often do bring out this, amazing sort of rugby that just sets the competition alight with brilliant plays like that.
Yeah, perhaps also we should mention the starting props from the Chiefs, because I say they did have the upper hand in that scrum in that first half, and then when they went off, that all disappeared and the Highlanders got the upper hand. So, props to the. Oh dear me! I just realised what I've gone and done. Yes, congratulations. Yeah, good. We should talk about. We should also mention the props for the Chiefs in that first half. Had a good game as well. Obviously, one of them has gone on to be is a recent All Black, but they're both guys who weren't part of the squad at the beginning of the season, and to be fronting up like that is fantastic. So, looking very quickly forward at the Brumbies versus the Hurricanes. 5 degrees in Canberra, 2.5 degrees with wind chill. I think we're going to have some cold hands and maybe some poor handling tonight with that game.
It's not raining. That's a positive, though.
But it's cold.
That's right.
So, yep. Enjoy that game, everybody. Steve, quick, let people know where they can get hold of you.
Yep, Cornflakes, all you need to know. Find me on Twitter. Come have a chat on YouTube as well for the videos as well. So come step by and say hi.
Hit like, hit subscribe if you're new, all of that kind of stuff. Always have good rugby chats. So you can get hold of me at DrivingMaul on Twitter or comments down below. Enjoy the next game, folks.